Want to touch on, being jacked at 30, in your 30s, or maybe, if you're someone that's wondering how it's going to be for you in your 30s, or maybe you are in your 30s or even 40s, right? Then you're going to be able to relate to this video. I want to touch on, personally speaking, for myself, how much fitness has changed at age 30 versus my 20s, right? So your 20s is more of like this, like kind of exploratory, you're making all these gains, right? You're young, you're reckless. You're not really thinking much about the future. You're just kind of caught up in this moment, and you think you're going to be in your 20s forever. Not realizing, that you're going to, basically spend the remainder of your life and, past, 30, right? That's where you're really going to start spending the majority of your time. And on top of that, things are going to get a little bit more difficult if you're not taking care of yourself, or you're not being strategic, or if you're just not, being mindful of how much your body's going to change. So basically, I just want to touch on, like for myself speaking, being 31, how I'm still getting more jacked and how much things have changed, right? In regards to my training, the energy levels, and then on top of, just being natural, right? I've reached 31 without falling into the temptation of, steroids, pro hormones, or, just being natural, right? Or even testosterone to go there, right? At my age, there's a lot of guys that are pretty much infertile, or they're pretty much on high amounts of TRT. And the thing is that I got nothing against it, but it is irreversible. So once you get started, you have to pretty much stay on it. And I consider myself, just a jacked, just natty bodybuilder. I think that at 31, for not taking any kind of even supplements, very minimal. For not taking steroids, in comparison to a lot of other guys that I see in the gym, I think that it's a very nice feeling, and there's a great difference as well once you've been pretty consistent. Especially in your 20s leading into your 30s, if you be consistent in the gym, you're just gonna show up with different looking muscle. That's called muscle maturity, right? Once you have that muscle maturity, your muscle's just gonna look different in comparison, to the newbie gains, or like your newbie, fitness, just like any jack, new beginner, even if they're hop on something, you can kind of tell the difference, right? You'll be able to completely tell the difference between muscle maturity versus someone, that's has new muscle. So that's number one. And then the other thing is, as you start getting older, pretty much everything's going to start slowing down, right? Your testosterone levels are going to be dropping. If you weren't taking care of yourself in your 20s, then you're really going to start feeling it in your 30s. And I can't imagine, your 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on. So it's better to just kind of get started early on. And that's kind of what I've always done, right? I mean, not to say that, that I was a saint, or, that I didn't have my crazy moments in my 20s. I definitely had my fair share, but I was also very mindful of what I was putting into my body, right? As far as, whole foods. So I've always been very mindful, staying away from microwave foods, processed foods, eating out. And if I did eat out, I try to keep it, relatively clean. But other than that, just enjoying the whole foods. And I can tell, that just me taking care of myself, being on top of my fitness, my diet, especially now even with sleep. I've noticed, that, my testosterone is still through the roof, right? Even at my age, I don't need to hop on any kind of TRT. In the mornings, I still wake up with a lot of energy, myself and, my other best friend. So we have no problem in that department. And the gains are still coming in, even at 31, right? Like crazy, right? And I just want to say, that your 30s, I know for a lot of you guys, it may sound like it's old, or, it's like a distant future if you're young watching this, but just realize that it's going to creep up on you before you even know it. And, it's going to be a whole different ball game, right? Like when you were in your teens or your early 20s, you can eat a box of pizza, right? And you can wake up the next day shredded with an extra ab. Just realize that your metabolism is going to start slowing down, right? It's going to come at different ages depending on how, your genetics are, and then as well as how hard you pretty much tax your body, right? So you guys need to be mindful of all these things. And I think that now, just being in my 30s, and still in the fitness space, just taking care of myself, bodybuilding, I think that I've grown to respect, older, the older the older community, you know, that's still jacked, or even when I see someone that has abs in their 30s, 40s, 50s, now that's impressive. That is a whole new level of just dedication. And you will know, right? I will be more impressed, you know, seeing someone that's 30 or 40 with abs versus someone that's in their teens or 20s with abs, because there's levels to it. And some of you guys won't be able to comprehend it yet until you get there. So just be very mindful of that. That's actually one of my goals, is to get abs, because I've never really had like a six pack that's defined, but I want to have it year round. So that's something that we're working on, and it's very attainable, guys. So I just want to leave you guys with that. And the beauty now, you know, being in, you know, my early 30s, you know, is that pretty much all my 20s I spent it doing, you know, just it was like a learning phase, right? But I now have that foundation, that solid foundation, and then now I have like experience knowledge, right? And that experience knowledge, you know, with hard work, right, training smart, and then on top of that, using implementing all these strategies, right, is what has taken my physique to the next level. And right now I'm reaping all the benefits of it. So, you know, it's just one of those things that just comes with, you know, experience and age. You're going to be well seasoned, and, you know, your muscle maturity is going to be there to help you as well. So that's the beauty. If you guys stay consistent, you know, your 30s is not going to be a drag. If anything, it's going to get easier. But you guys need to be mindful of that, right? That you need to be able to see the long term. You know, if you're in your 20s, just realize that you should be looking into your 30s, right? So start building that strong foundation, right? So that by the time you get there, it's just easy sailing for you, and you're going to be reaping the benefits of it, because it's an amazing feeling once you actually do take care of yourself and you kind of start looking around your other counterparts. And, you know, they're just completely, you know, just let themselves go. There's no problem with that, but I think that at the end of the day, everything really boils down to health, because health is wealth, longevity. So I just want to, you know, just kind of share those things with you guys. You know, if you start taking care of yourself, there's definitely so much potential. And at the end of the day, you know, we are living in this more advanced generation, or this advanced era, where we do have pretty much, you know, all these advanced technology, you know, all these advancements, you know, as well as like TRT is also a possibility. I'm not to knock on it, but I want to prolong it as further down the road as I can, right? Because once that comes, you know, once that train comes, you know, the gains are going to come even crazier, right? So let's just keep pushing it as natural and as far as we can, right? We're just going to maximize it. Pretty much just, you know, just see where the potential is, right? Once we reach that limit, then we know, you know, we can start looking into other avenues. But for the meantime, you know, health is wealth. We're going to be taking care of ourselves, doing things a natural way. So basically, I just want to share that with you guys. You know, if you're watching this, or especially you know, like if you're wondering, you know, like, oh, how can I get jacked? You know, it's never too late. Even if you find yourself in your 30s, 40s, 50s, it's never too late to get started. You know, just being mindful, and the strategy, the knowledge, right? It's all got to be there. I have uploaded a lot of videos for you guys to watch, where I don't just do, you know, these motivational B-roll videos, you know, because I think there's plenty of videos out there. I'm giving you guys the depth and knowledge, right? The key, the strategies to help you take, you know, your fitness gains to the next level, right? A lot of these strategies, they're going to take years. You know, these are pretty much advanced strategies that I'm helping you guys, and I'm giving to you guys for free, absolutely free. I'm not asking anything in return from you guys. So you guys can also go back to my other videos that I have uploaded and see exactly what I'm talking about. So I just want to leave that with you guys. You know, that being in your 30s, man, it's a really great feeling. Once you take care of yourself, you're doing the work, and you're continuing to reap a lot of results and progress. So just know that it's an amazing feeling, guys. And I want to leave you guys with that. So I'll see you guys in the next video. If you guys got any kind of value from this video, if you guys want to drop, you know, share any of your thoughts, comment down below. Make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next vid.